Welcome to the G3X podcast, where it's Gotcha and Grind Unfiltered. This is episode 43 of the podcast. Our special guest today being Billy Casimir. Billy, how are you today, man? Thank you so much for being here.
Hey man, what's going on? Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm great. How about you?
Excited for this episode with me and Billy. By the way, for the audience, I've been trying to get a podcast with Billy for a while now. He's a super busy person. I've been traveling. He's been doing different things. And so
Yeah.
we're like, hey, let's do it next week. And then something happens. Oh, let's cut. And then finally, we were able to get a day and time that works best
Yeah.
for the both of us. So super excited for it. But actually, so for the audience, I met Billy specifically. Unlike most of my other guests, where I always say, hey, I met him through social, I actually met him here in a local event here in Miami at a fitness event.
Yeah.
For maybe those of you who haven't seen it, 2 episodes ago, I had Maribel that she has her business Lifted in Faith, and though she does these local events end of every month. And then in one of those events that I was there, Billy was there too, giving like a training class, a fitness training class, which was super cool. That's where I met him. Started talking to him after the event just to get a bit of his background and things that he's done. And I'm like, hey, I would love to have you one day on the podcast. We connected through socials afterwards, and here we are now. So
Yeah.
again, super excited. Billy knows a lot, but I don't want to steal his thunder. So Billy, for the audience who might not be aware of who you are, feel free to introduce yourself, what you do, where you're from, etc. And then we take it from there.
Yeah, man. Thank you for that introduction, man. Yeah, when it comes to myself, my background, I'm gonna try not to be too long-winded. But yeah, my name is Billy Casimir. I'm a personal trainer in the Miami, Florida area, and I specialize in pain free performance training for busy professionals, busy moms and dads, basically everyone across the board. That's the thing that I'm the most passionate about. Anyone can get in shape, but when you have injuries and things that are limiting your growth in your training, that becomes, a huge obstacle for a lot of people. So that's my field of expertise. And a little bit about myself. I am Haitian. I was born in Bahamas. My family's Haitian. And yeah, man, raised in Miami, Miami through and through, 305.
305.
Yeah, man, that's kind of the basis, man. I have a lot of different hobbies and things like that that I'm into. And yeah, man, I'm just happy to be here.
Love it, love it. Same here, 305 all my life as well. So we already know that Miami vibe in a sense.
100%, 100%.
But for sure, Billy, one thing I actually want to get into is that I think it's very cool. All the different guests that I've had different personal trainers and coaches, etc. One thing that definitely stood out to me, I would say, from other past guests is your like specific focus on, let's say, that pain-free training for busy professionals. So I know you've also had a background for like the past like 10 years or so, also personal training. But before getting into that, I want to focus a little bit on that, let's say, pain-free training aspect. What made you, given your time already as a personal trainer, that you specifically start focusing on that aspect of pain-free
Yeah.
training and so forth? Like, what made you get into that specifically?
Yeah, man, that is actually a great question because when I got into training over, 10 plus years ago, that definitely wasn't my focus. But here were some signs that this was eventually going to be my niche. It was the fact that when I originally, started going to school and applying for schools and stuff like that, I wanted to major in physical therapy. So I wanted to major in physical therapy so that I could become a better trainer. But long story short, that didn't happen. I started going to school and then, didn't finish. And I met my mentor, Matt Pack. And around the time, so I met my mentor, Matt, I want to say 5 years into training, maybe 3 years into training. And then, when you meet people who are just so much more experienced than you get the opportunity to learn a lot. So around that time, I was probably in my bodybuilding phase. I was just trying to be as jacked as possible, as shredded as possible. And when I met Matt and all the other trainers and professionals around him, it exposed me to a entirely different scope of practice. It's not to say that his specialty is pain-free training, but I learned that there is a middle ground between personal training and physical therapy, and that's the kind of space that I occupy. So, yeah, man, over the years, I think a lot of trainers go through different phases. I've had a bodybuilding phase, I've had a super functional fitness phase where like if it didn't involve rotation, I didn't want to do it because around that, when you get into more functional training, it's a huge focus on rotational movements. I've had a kettlebell phase. If it wasn't a kettlebell, I didn't want to see it. I've had a calisthenics phase where like if it wasn't explosive push-ups and pull-ups and muscle ups, I didn't want to do that either. So I think over the years, man, as you grow, you start to see where what you're more aligned with. I still love kettlebells, I still do calisthenics, I still love the bodybuilding side of training, but I'm more aligned with the pain-free performance side of things. And to be honest, man, I've just seen how pain can wreck a lot of people, man. One thing I say a lot is I've seen how good 50 can look and I've seen how bad it can look. And it all comes down to how well you take care of yourself. So hopefully that answers the question.
No, that's amazing. I'm glad you hit that point too at the end, like how good 50 can look or not by how you take care of yourself. For example, I can speak
Hmm.
with my family, like my dad, literally
Right.
my dad. He takes care of himself, like things that he eats and certain things of that sort. And he's 61.
That's
And
amazing,
when
bro.
people see that he's 61, he's like, "What?" He looks like he's 40. He literally looks like he's like 40. Like people are like
Yeah,
shocked.
man.
And I've seen people that are younger than my dad actually that are in their 40s and they look like they're in their 60s, because again, they didn't take care
100%.
of themselves as much or different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
So it's
listen,
like, that's
man.
so true.
I was gonna say this background that you see behind me, man. Like I tell people all the time, like the gym is the fountain of youth. A lot of people are looking for a magic pill. They're looking for a special remedy, but the gym, bro, that is the fountain of youth, bro, for sure.
Yep, yep, yep. One thing I recently started saying to myself too within G3X is kind of like that aspect of like rebuilding the gym because of some of my backstory was like the gym kind of helped me kind of build myself back up when I was in a dark spot. And so like rebuilding
Mm,
yourself in the gym and not just from an emotional standpoint, but then you can apply it from a physical standpoint, health standpoint too. Because same thing, my mom, she was going through certain like health things years ago, and then once she started going to the gym more consistently with me, a lot of things that started going away. She started feeling better in her like energy levels and so much. So exactly like you said, the
yeah,
gym definitely is. Let's say that. I love how you said it. That fountain of youth. I think that's a beautiful analogy, and
yeah,
it definitely I say it's underrated, right? So many people, like you're
yeah.
saying, oh, Zampic or this or that. Hey, to each their own, but there's nothing better,
Right.
in my opinion, than just putting in the work and seeing like through that how you could probably testify
Yeah.
this too, developing your discipline, your eating habits, being more aware of your own
Hmm.
body, what it reacts to positively, negatively, different things of that sort.
Absolutely, man. You said your mom, it helped with her energy and stuff like that. What was that like? If you mind elaborating.
No, for sure. I mean, for her, like, sometimes she would get up in the day and just, she stays at home. She's like a stay-at-home mom. And so, probably she'll like cook, prep some stuff, clean the house. And but then she just didn't have the energy to like continue. She just felt tired. Or like
Yeah.
maybe her hands like just kind of like numb or this and that. She started going to the gym, doing like the machines, either on the bicycle, lifting a little bit of some weights, etc. She herself would notice that she was on her day to day doing different errands or different things where she just wouldn't feel as tired. The best example I could give you recently, we were traveling to Dominican Republic, and there's a specific Airbnb that we always stay at. Like we made friends with the owner of that Airbnb, so she gives us
Hmm.
some great deals whenever we travel there. So we always stay at that Airbnb, but it's in a
Yeah.
third floor and there's no elevator, so it's just pure stairs.
Mm.
And so like earlier 2 months ago we were there for like a week and a half, and so of course every time we had to do errands, go out, whatever, we just up and down the stairs. And she's like, oh my god, Adriel, this is awesome. Like I remember last year when I came, it's like I would
Mm.
be exhausted just getting up the stairs, and now
Yeah.
I feel good. Like I don't even feel tired and everything. I'm like, that was
100%.
music to my ears. Like there you go, mom, you see, like just gotta stick to it, like
Oh,
just get
100%,
get
bro.
to it. Because initially, and I'm pretty sure with some of your clients too, like initially, like maybe they're not wanting to, or like they just need that
Hmm.
little, but once they see some of the results, they're like, oh, I love what I'm seeing. Let me
Yeah.
definitely continue.
Hey man, if I had to add to that too, I don't know if you saw a recent article published about Usain Bolt. He talked about how now at this point of his life, when he walks upstairs, like he's out of breath. And bro, to think this is the Usain Bolt, bro, like one of the fastest guys to ever participate in track and field. He's out of breath when he's, going upstairs now. And it doesn't take away from his greatness and all of the amazing thing that he's accomplished. But I think for your mom and bro and mom and other people like that, like it's a moment that allows people to see like, dang, like even a man like that, he's human, bro. Like if he's not doing, what he usually does to run his races, he will get out of shape. No one's immune to it. So it's like it doesn't matter how advanced you are, how much of a beginner you are. You just got to start and stay consistent, bro. Like at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
One, and not to get too off topic, but just on that topic of being consistent and like on like and like older people. One person that really stands out to me on social media, maybe you've heard of her, is Granny Guns. That's her
No,
like Instagram
well,
handle, Granny
actually,
Guns. She's like in her sit.
yeah, I've seen some of her posts, but I've never actually went down the rabbit hole. But definitely crossed a few of her posts before.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
So she's actually a young LA athlete. She's like in her late
You
sixties,
said
if I
she's a
remember
young
correctly.
LA athlete?
Yeah, she's like a young LA athlete. She's like
No,
an
that's
official young
crazy.
LA athlete. And so I was having a good conversation with her of kind of like what got her into like fitness. And like again, she was going through a bunch of different health issues and this and that, etc. And she started just going more to the gym. The doctor was like, "Hey, you can't lift weights or whatever." And she just started lifting
Mhm,
light weights. Going to her son's like a personal trainer, if I remember correctly. And so the son
mhm.
like would train with her and everything. And like when she would sometimes go back to the doctor for like checkups, like they were like, "Oh wow," like they were surprised that she was doing much better than they expected
Yeah.
because she got like into fitness and all that. So it's like, wow, that's like a super cool
Mhm.
story. Just like further proof, just like you said, you're never too late, right? People might think, oh, it's too late for me, I'm too old or this and that. Hey, just start. Definitely, I'm with you there, Billy.
Yeah,
Just start,
man.
like just start.
Mhm.
But let me also ask you this, Billy, when it comes to like, again, furthering back to what you were saying on that pain-free training, with your experience, what would you say are some maybe misconceptions or maybe misunderstandings people have, or what they think pain-free training is, like versus what it actually is, like maybe like a false misconception or
Yeah.
misunderstandings or so forth?
Yeah, that's a good question. Man, I would probably say one of the biggest misunderstandings with pain-free training is that it's physical therapy or that it's rehab. Like it is rehab in a sense, but I think people think pain-free training and they think physical therapy, and it's not even this, like I don't want to, get like I don't want to confuse you or anyone watching or listening, but because physical therapy and rehab are not bad things. But when you think PT or rehab, you think clinical setting, you think either somebody just got out of an accident, which is sometimes the case, or an 80-year-old person that can't walk or they had a hip replacement. That's kind of what or that's what I think about. That's what most people are thinking about when they think PT or rehab, or maybe a sports injury or something like that, right? Like you tore your ACL and then you're a couple of weeks post op and you're getting ready to, you know, engage in sports again. So that's what people think about. But I think the scope of injuries are it's so broad. The scope of injuries is so broad. It can be an ACL, it can be my wrist just hurts. I didn't do anything, my wrist just hurts. I didn't get in a car accident or I didn't do anything to hurt my back, but my back just hurts. So people are living in pain. Like there's a lot of people that are living in pain. Sometimes you can kind of trace that back to something, whether it's an overuse injury, maybe this person's in the construction field, or they have a very physically demanding job, or maybe the person's a desk bound lawyer and they're just sitting all day. And even if they get a standing desk, they're in one spot all day. So if they're standing all day, they're leaning into one hip or whatever the case may be. So back to kind of stay on track, a lot of people think pain-free training is rehab or physical therapy. It's not limited to those things. It's saying this person has an ailment or a limitation, and they still want to get strong. They still want to put on muscle and lose body fat. They still want to get in the best shape of their life. It doesn't always mean that they've had a traumatic injury or something like that. They just have limitations and they don't want those limitations getting in the way. And I think that if I had to clear something up, it would be that. Like pain-free training doesn't always mean like, this person's had surgery, this person, was in the car accident or whatever the case may be. If you have pain, which many Americans do, if you're on your phone all day and you're like this, like you got that text neck and your neck is hurting, we could work on that. You're like 20 years old and then you got this,
Like hunched over,
grandpa
yeah.
back. You feel me? Like we could work on that, and it's causing shoulder issues. You could work on that, and then if you've been in the gym long enough, man, like gym bros, bro, shoulder pain, your shoulder is gonna hurt eventually. All that bench pressing isn't bad, but if you overdo it with improper technique or inefficient technique, as I like to say, man, you can just count. Something's gonna start feeling a little wonky, and you're gonna be like, dang, like why my left shoulder bothering me? Like that's just the cost of using our bodies, man. If you use your body, something eventually is gonna ache a little bit, and you got to navigate it. And that's what pain tree is. That's what pain free training is all about: is navigating through the aches and pains, man, and having a good understanding of what those things are, and not letting them, ruin your life or run your life. Really.
I really like how you mentioned that. Yeah, because for example, like me, like same thing. Exactly, they hit the nail on the head with like the shoulder pain. There, for me, it was my
Yeah.
right shoulder, and especially when benching. And then yeah, I had to do certain like types of like exercise, especially with those bands, like those bands for the shoulder, and
Yeah.
that like really helped a
Yeah.
lot to like just kind of like make my shoulder feel better. So now when I'm benching either dumbbell, Smith, barbell,
Hmm.
it's like, oh, finally, like there's like barely any pain or like no pain at all. So
You
like
see?
it's super convenient.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just want to ignore it, like, oh, it'll just go away. No, it won't
Hmm.
go away. And if anything, it can get worse. So
Yeah. Exactly.
listen to what Billy is saying.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. You didn't even tell me this before, bro. And it's like, soon as I'm using the example, you're like, oh, yep, that's me. That's me. I was benching my shoulder. But it's so common, man. It's so common. And I think people need to know how to navigate those aches and pains, man, no matter what's causing them.
And I love it mentioned. And I guess then for people that could be listening to this, maybe they are looking for a trainer that would say therefore what sets you apart versus other like trainers as well as like specifically if like they feel like they have some kind of ache or pain where like you
Hmm.
said, it doesn't necessarily mean they were involved in an accident or injury or anything. It's just something that slightly bothers them. But like you said, they are looking to go back into the gym or
Hmm.
get into the gym.
Right.
Except that's where like a trainer like you that specifically focuses on that kind of
Correct.
training would come into play
Right.
versus if they just hire any personal trainer that maybe
Yes.
isn't specialized there, right?
Correct. Yeah. And I definitely want to elaborate on that too, because when I got into training, I learned how to do exercises correctly. And to some degree, I learned how to substitute an exercise if a client was experiencing pain during that exercise. But when you want to learn how to understand what's causing that pain and how to get to the root cause of it, that's a totally different situation. It requires just more understanding of anatomy, physiology, understanding, the science behind pain. Because the reality of pain, man, is it's really subjective. Something that might hurt me a lot might not hurt you very much, like it's really subjective. So you're trying to take something super subjective and then apply a predictable model to it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I do think that there is a difference in learning how to train pain free versus learning how to get somebody ready for a bodybuilding stage. I think bodybuilding is great, and I know a lot of bodybuilders that probably don't have anything bothering them because of how they train, but not everybody trains smart. There's a lot of guys who are jacked, but they probably didn't get that way, the pain freest way. I'm just making up words at this point. But like, so my point is, man, when you're training for either performance, because to perform and do something is a task, you're trying to set a goal to get from point A to point B. Now, what happens when you're locked in on the task or the goal that you want to achieve? Generally, it means, okay, I'm going to do this no matter the cost. Like, no matter the cost, I'm going to get this 315. I'm going to get it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're benching 315, I'm going to get this weight up no matter what it takes. Right. So, like, when you're lifting for strength or really, or excessive, I don't want to say excessive hypertrophy, but when your focus is strength or hypertrophy, you normally have to factor in the debt that you're placing in on your joints, that you're placing on your joints. And sometimes that means you might tear something, you might overwork something, something might be out of wax. I do think it's a different skill set. You know, so my skill set doesn't involve getting somebody ready for a bodybuilding stage. If someone came to me and they said, "Yo, I want to get on stage in 6 months at the NPC Nationals or whatever, the Olympia," I'm gonna be like, "Listen, I could get you lean, I can get your muscles showing, your abs showing, but I can't get you ready for a stage. You got to go see that guy over there." So it's a different practice. That's all it is.
And it's true. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, yeah, because like everyone has their specialty. So it's like, especially if you're looking for someone to assist you or like train you, you got to make sure you get the right person to for what you're looking for. Where I feel
Mhm.
like, at least from what I've noticed, sometimes in like past guests that I've had, that they talk about their own experience working with their different clients. How sometimes, like you said, different goals are require different kinds of, let's say, like specialty or focus or type of training, where
Correct.
everyone focuses on
Correct.
a specific thing. And so I think it's super important to know what you're trying to achieve, to then know who exactly to look for when
Yeah.
looking for like a trainer to
And
like
if I
help
had
you.
to interject too, like if I just want to say so I don't lose that train of thought. The same way that my focus is pain free training. And earlier I was talking about how if someone is focused on performance, strength, or hypertrophy, it comes at a cost of potentially getting hurt. When you're focused on pain free training, that also means you're probably not going to maximize performance. You're not going to get as strong as you can possibly get. You're not going to put on as much muscle as you possibly can. Right. So I remember hearing this quote where the guy said, "There's no solutions, only trade offs." So, me personally, I'm willing to trade, a few pounds of muscle and jumping the highest, running the fastest to wake up in the morning and nothing hurts. That's the trade-off that I'm willing to make. Other people, they don't care if things hurt. They want to know that, I'm the fastest version of myself or the strongest version of myself or the most jacked version of myself. So it's up to the listener to figure out what am I willing to trade off in this world of health and wellness, and how is it going to affect my life? Is it going to make me better? Whatever it is, you got to decide that for yourself. But for me, I'm gonna say, listen, my trade off is I'm gonna sacrifice a few pounds of muscle, and I might not perform, like the high school version of myself, jumping, 40 inches or whatever. I wasn't jumping 40 inches, but you know what I mean, like jumping super high, stuff like that. But yeah, I'm like, listen, man, when you get older, you just don't. When you get older, bro, like I think, how old are you, by the way?
26.
Okay, so you're 26. I'm 20. Oh, dang! Why did I just say 30? I'm 29. Oh man, what am I doing?
Oh.
So yeah, I'm like I ain't even there yet. I'm already putting that age on myself, but I'm almost 30, bro. I
You
think
turn
like
30 next year or later
I
this
turn
year?
30 next year. Yeah,
Okay, there
March.
you go.
So it's
I turned
like
27 in December.
yeah, man. I don't know if it's just because of the people I work with, or I've had a lot of injuries. I didn't even say that earlier in my introduction. I've had a lot of injuries, and that's definitely one of the things that's led to me specializing in pain-free training. I've had a lot of injuries, and I hate being hurt. I hate being injured, bro. I just don't like it. It sucks, bro. Like you're on crutch. I've been on crutches twice, bro. Like you're on crutches, and then the crutches and digging in your armpits, and then if like I've sprained my thumb and I can't use my hand, bro. I've had back issues, shoulder issues. I've had a lot of injuries, and being injured sucks, bro. Point blank,
Mm.
period. So that's one of the big reasons I decided to, specialize in this because I can identify with that. So yeah, man, like earlier, like I said, there's no solutions, only trade-offs. And for me, that's the trade-off that I'm willing to make. As you get older, things start to hurt. Like it could be the
Mhm.
people I work with. It could be because of the people I work with or because of my history or a combination of the two. But I'm like, listen, man, you get older, you want to make sure you wake up in the morning, nothing hurts. You want to make sure you can do a couple jumping jacks, run a little bit, and don't pull a muscle. And that's kind of the fine line that I'm towing, right? I want to make sure that nothing hurts as I get older. I want to be the fittest 90-year-old you've ever seen, 100-year-old you've ever seen, bro. Like that's my goal. because I'm thinking long term, and that's the goal, man. God willing, I make it to that age and I live a long life. I want to be an example, man, for everyone out there to show them, like, listen, bro, like aging, it's not a fun process, but you don't. It doesn't have to be miserable. That's what I want to show the world.
Yes, and that last part doesn't have to be miserable. So true.
Right.
I really like that quote. Actually, I hadn't heard of it. There's no solutions, only trade off, and I think it's like super spot on because I was
Mm-hmm.
having a conversation earlier this year with a friend of mine that she was getting into like fitness, but her goal wasn't anything of like getting big or muscles, just kind of like just to be fit. Just to like be
Mm-hmm.
fit and just like feel better with her body. So she was like doing like more cardio, light weights, but still doing some kind of weights, etc. So I was messing with her just like to mess with her. She's like a friend of I've
Right.
known for like more than 10 plus years. And I think when I was texting at that moment, I was actually doing legs. I was doing like some squats. So I sent her this picture like of like I think I was doing like two plates on the squats, like 225, etc.
For
And
sure.
then and then she was like, "You're crazy." And I'm like, why? He's like, and somehow in the conversation she just mentioned like kind of like jokingly like, oh, you're gonna be old and super stiff in your joints, you know what I mean? 'Cause just that aspect of like, and I just started laughing like, no, I stretch and everything. And but the
Exactly.
only reason I mentioned that is because like you said, there's only there's trade-offs where like for her, she's happy with what she's doing of what her goal is. For me it's like, I do want to get, I would say as big, not as big as possible, but just like jacked versus where I
Yeah.
was years ago, where I was like super skinny, super bony,
Right.
but not like super huge either, where it's like all I wear is
Correct.
like 3XLs and everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like not to
Right.
that extreme either. But like you said, there's definitely trade-offs. The best example I could say, and hey, he's an extremely well respected bodybuilder in the bodybuilding industry. Um, and I don't know the exact reason why. So it might not be the best example, but I know like Ronnie Coleman, right? He's like, hey man,
Mm-hmm.
everyone loves Ronnie Coleman. Hey, lightweight,
He's a
everyone's like,
perfect
but,
example
you
of
know,
this, bro. Perfect
yeah,
example.
and the guy won what? Like I think 5 or 6 Mr. Olympia titles, maybe more. I think 8 Olympia.
Eight,
I don't remember how many. Yeah, 8, right?
eight
Yeah,
time
eight,
Mr.
8X.
Olympia.
Yeah,
Yeah, buddy.
Mr. Olympia. Like hey, I love him to
Yeah.
death. He was there in the Young LA event in Miami that they recently had, so I was able to get
Really?
to see him and talk to him. So it was super cool. But like, hey, it sucks that such a amazing person. It sucks to see him like in the wheelchair and everything. It's like, damn, I wish. But like again, pros and cons. I think I feel I will remember once in a YouTube video I saw like an interview, and it's like he no regrets. He loved everything he's done. It's like there you go. As long as there's no regrets,
Yeah.
that's what happens, and
I had
you
the
know
same
what you were getting into.
conversation, bro. Yeah, I had the same conversation with some colleagues of mine not that long ago. When in that I saw the same interview that you're talking about. Bro, when I saw the interview and they asked him, they said, if you had to do it all over again, would you? Boy, when I tell you every ounce of me thought he was gonna say no. Look at me. I wouldn't do it all over again. But that's just me and how I view health and wellness. I thought that's what he was gonna say. That man said I would do it all over again. I was like, oh snap. At least he's standing on business. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
but for me, man, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, bro. Like, cause here's the thing, bro. This is how I look at it too. I saw this chart and man, I wish I could like draw it. Like if we were on a Zoom call, I would do the whiteboard thing where you see it, but it looks like this. This is the time. I know my finger's probably blocking the mic, but this is when you're
Are you good?
born and this is when you die, bro. So this is 0. Let's say you live to 80. This right here is the time you're born to the time you're about 30. So this is 30, bro. That's a small part of your life compared to 30 to 80. You see what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
25 to 80. So am I really going to, from 25 to 80, am I gonna live off of what I did 50 years ago, even though it was great? I mean, cool. Because the thing is, there is a powerful thing about youth, bro. Like being youthful, there's something powerful, God given about youth. Like it's like you just look at youth and you kind of see purity in a sense, but at the same time, you look at age and then somebody who's elderly, but you see a lot of wisdom and a lot of game that this person could drop on you. So it's like we talked about earlier, pros and cons. But back to that Ronnie Coleman thing, I'm like, bro, if I know from 30 to 80, that's where I'm gonna live a lot of my life. Why would I want to be in a wheelchair from 30 to 80 or 50 to 80? To be in a wheelchair for 30 years? Like, come on, bro. Like, that ain't me. It might be somebody else might want to do that, but like, come on, bro. Kids, grandkids. Like, there's a lot that you can do and that you should look forward to. And yeah, man. So respect everybody's decisions, but I can't see that for myself.
For sure, for sure. Exactly like you said, there's only trade-offs and you already know where you want
Mm-hmm.
to go. So you're like, hey, that's where you're going for. And
Mm-hmm.
100% spot on there. Now, let me also ask you too, I wanted to get into just to give you more context for the person. Let's say, and again, it varies for sure, I'm sure, with per client, but what would you say are some of the most common issues or like pains that some of your clients tend to face? And what would be like common, for lack of a better word to use, or frequent, I say frequent exercise or kind of routine that
Mm-hmm.
maybe one of your clients goes through? And just to give like a little more context as well as to like what goes into like that pain-free training aspect, because I really like this topic
Yeah.
that is like something different, something unique that I haven't had on the podcast before, and I just want to get
Yeah.
more value to people.
So the most common issues that clients have, right? That's the question.
Hmm.
Oh man, I've gotten a wide variety, but if I had to think deeply, I would probably say, man, there's a couple that are tied, to be honest. I can't say there's the most common. I'm going to say shoulders,
Mm.
knees, and back.
I
Yeah,
was thinking, I was definitely
shoulders,
thinking back for sure, and shoulders.
shoulders,
So
knee.
yeah.
You know what's crazy? You would think lower back issues is a no brainer. But I mean, after 10 years, I want to say they're tied, bro. Shoulders, knees, and back are pretty tied. If you look at the numbers might show back pain to be the most chronic and the most
Mm.
common. So most Americans are probably dealing with back pain more than they're dealing with shoulder pain and knee pain. But I think there's a caveat. I think because remember, I'm a personal trainer. I work with people who want to be active or already active. So maybe half of the people dealing with back pain out there have no interest in working out. They're probably just filling out a survey and say, I have back pain. So if you look at the research, you'll see that most people have back pain, but maybe half of them never make it to a gym. That's why, to answer your question, shoulders, knees, and back are tied. Just in my experience and what I've worked and the people I've worked with. Yeah,
Yeah, I
man.
see what you're saying. Yeah, no, and I would say, yeah, even with certain people that I've like trained before in the gym, like even around my age too, where sometimes maybe one complains like my back hurts, but like you said, sometimes it's due to like they weren't training the best way possible because they're a power lifter and they're just trying to lift as heavy as possible. And I'm like, oh, no wonder you're probably like doing like, yeah,
Yeah.
man, I was doing some heavy deadlifts and I failed and now my back hurts. So I was like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
happened to me before. So I've been there.
yeah, man. Like, if I may interject, bro, I think if I had to give some free game for the listeners, so we're talking about, why people have pain and all that stuff, man. I encourage people like who want to learn about pain-free training. Understand this. Muscles don't operate by themselves. They need ligaments and they need tendons. So muscles are not tendons and tendons are not muscles. The same way that ligaments are not tendons and tendons are not ligaments. These things function differently. Oftentimes they're so hyper focused on the pump, the pump. They forget about the tendons. They forget about stress to the ligaments. Like, you got to factor these things in if you don't want anything, if you don't want issues in the long run. So someone might say muscles grow with progressive overload. Yeah, they're right. If you want your muscles to grow, you got to put more weight on whatever exercise that you're doing every time you lift or on a regular basis. You got to get stronger at that lift if you want your muscles to grow. But what about the tendons? Tendons don't like to be stretched. But if you want to grow your muscles, you need, or it's best to train full range of motion. There's an optimal range of motion that some people might argue you don't need full range of motion, whatever, but that's another conversation for another day. But you need optimal range of motion if you want the muscles to grow. But tendons don't like being stretched. How do you find that balance? So what I like to encourage people to do, find a plan that has the lowest risk and highest reward. You're going to have to stretch that tendon to some capacity if you want to grow your muscles, but find the minimal amount of work needed to move the needle forward so that way you're not tearing something. You know, that might be crazy to somebody who like to do 3 sets of 20, 4 sets of 20, because I'm telling you to find a minimal amount of work needed to move the needle forward. And you've been doing 4 sets of 20 your whole life because they told you you need the pump, you need to get the blood flow. And it's like, come on, bro. Like your joints only have so much life. You got to preserve them. You have to preserve them. So, yeah, man, when it comes to training pain free, understand the difference between tendons, ligaments, and muscles. And that'll help a lot.
No, beautiful and well said. And I think it leads perfectly into kind of like the other point I wanted to get into, like, definitely taking care of yourself as you train. Cause like you said, there's only so much life like that. Again, your ligaments, your joints, and all those things that sometimes we get so focused on the short term, like lifting heavy, this and that. But hey, like you said, think long term. One of the repercussions long term, like, hey, squatting every day, as a random example, like 405, hey, where do you see your knees 10
Right.
years from now or
100%.
something, or different things of that
Yeah.
fat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
And
know
I have
also one
to
thing I wanted
go
to
ahead.
tie it. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I have to add a caveat too, because earlier I said something really important. I said tendons don't like being stretched. So here's the thing. I want to add to that because it almost, someone can take that out of context and say, oh, he said stretching is bad. Not necessarily. I stretch quite a bit. You see what I'm saying? So I stretch,
Mhm.
I become, I'm getting more flexible as I'm stretching more and more. But the beautiful thing about health and wellness is building momentum is difficult, but sustaining and maintaining that momentum is easier. So as your muscles get to a optimal length and you have a certain amount of flexibility, now the work to maintain that becomes a lot easier and you don't have to worry about overstretching your tendons. You don't have to worry about all of the issues that come with overstretching because you've done the groundwork and now you just have to maintain. So, just wanted to throw that in there, man. You go ahead.
I like that. Now, what would you say for someone? Because I've been with people before where like maybe they don't like stretching at all. Like they'll just work out. Like they'll maybe warm up, do their different heavy lifts, etc. Maybe do some cardio at the end, finish cardio, and like wash up and go home. Like no
Yeah.
stretching at all. Like, and they know they should stretch, but they just don't.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what to do to stretch or this and that. Like, have you ever had clients like that, or like what would you say
Shoot.
to those people that
Way
maybe
too
like,
Yeah, way too many. Way too many. So let me first say I think the only reason I stretch, aside from the fact that I've learned that you should, is because I have a background in this. That's number one. I grew up playing sports, and it was ingrained in me, bro. But it's not a natural thing for a lot of people. You hooping with your boys, yo, pass the rock, and then you shoot. You feel me? And you want to play a pickup game or you want to play flag football, like you just start the game. No one ever
Mhm.
thinks about that part of activity. You show up to the gym. Maybe you would think about starting light, but you're like, all right, cool. Last time I think I did 2 plates. All right, put 185 on there and then I'll do 2 plates, second set, whatever. So my point is, I want to first say that if someone doesn't have that paradigm shift, then yeah, they're not going to see stretching as valuable. I probably say like, okay, if it wasn't for my background, I'd probably be one of those people. So I just want to start off by identifying with that first. Now, if someone is not stretching now and, what would I say to that? Honestly, man, I think stretching is a non-negotiable. I think like anything else, you can lean to an extreme and then over prioritize stretching. You can stretch so much before your workout that your muscles just don't have that springiness or rigidity that it needs to move heavy weight. So that could happen. So I encourage people to not to not, bounce around between extremes. And if you need help, I'm a shameless plug, hit me up for coaching. But yeah, so I would probably say, start with something simple, an upper body. Well, I like to say, listen, if you're training upper body, if you have an upper body day, you could either stretch your upper body the day before, and the day of your session go through a quick dynamic warm up. That way you maintain rigidity and elasticity of your muscles. If you're feeling stiff, then go through a quick warm up sequence and then lift responsibly within your capabilities, cuz if you got limitations, you got limitations. You can't train like you don't have them. So address it. You feel me? Yeah, man, and I think when we talk about pain-free training and stretching, injuries happen when the stress on the body exceeds the body's capabilities to handle that stress. So, man, I can't remember that dude's name from Fantastic Four. I don't know if you familiar with Fantastic Four, the
Yeah.
rock guy.
But
I can't
yeah, yeah,
remember his
yeah, yeah,
name,
yeah,
man,
yeah,
but you know who I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like you look at that, he's not the most flexible person, so it's like if you walk in the gym and you're like that, you could have a good workout and not get hurt even if you don't stretch, because the stresses on your body didn't exceed the capabilities. So that's when injuries happen, right? The stresses on the body exceeds the body's ability to handle those stresses. Man, I'm trying not to make it too complicated, but when it comes to stretching before your workouts, your muscles, elasticity is a component of your muscles. You need that. So make sure you have it. Don't overdo it, and understand that it's a gradual process. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, made perfect sense. I mean, and just putting myself as an example out there, the importance when I first started my fitness journey like 2, 3 years ago, I can think both for like chest day and chest, shoulder, and legs specifically. Let's start
Yeah.
off with legs. I wasn't as flexible on the hips, let's say. So when it comes to squats, it was just kind of like bothersome when trying to go that full depth. It was just something was
Right.
just bothering. And
Exactly.
then I was like, what's going on here? My knees sometimes would hurt too. And I wasn't even going heavy. And then I'm like, I just started going on YouTube, finding like, okay, what are some good, like, stretching exercises for legs or something. And then just started trying these ones like this, like, like open your hips to like stretch out your hips. And I'm like, at first I thought, I'm like, that's cap. That's for like girls training, because maybe like they
Yeah,
wanted
that's
more
another
focus on
thing.
glutes or
That's
something,
another.
you know. But then I
Yeah.
started doing them, and I'm like, oh my god, like the immense difference that I felt
Mhm.
for like those just 10 minutes of like good stretching and so forth. Where like, oh my god, I could like really go deep on the squat. It wasn't bothering my hips or anything, and it's like, whoa, huge
Yeah.
difference. Huge, and it
Yeah.
even allowed me to just go deeper on like for the range of motion. I go even like as a deeper squat where before
Yeah.
after a certain weight I couldn't go. Same thing with like
Right.
shoulders. Before doing chest or like shoulder, especially those band ones. Those bands are super good where it just kind of like
Yeah.
warms me up like here, like on the delts area, like, and then it's like,
Right.
you're like, okay, I'm ready to go for like a good pressing or some good lateral raises, etc.
Yeah.
So definitely the importance of doing that because it could even help again, stretching helps your flexibility, your mobility, so many different things there that you might take for granted.
Yeah, and if I had to add to that too, like understanding how your body should move is important so that you can understand, okay, what does full range of motion look like? Because the range of motion that you don't train or you don't get strong in becomes a liability. You know what I'm saying? So let's say you're normally used to partial squats with 225 on the bar. And then one day you go a little too low, there's a 50-50 chance that you come out of that squat with some issues because you never train that range of motion with tension, rigidity, stability, and good form. So, for those listening, understand what, full range of motion looks like and train that full range of motion. And if you have limitations, train responsibly. If you've had, hip replacements, knee issues, and all that stuff. I'm not telling you to fight tooth and nail for a deep squat. Be responsible. But if you've never had any, surgeries, hip replacements, but yet you're squatting like you're 80, that's a problem. That's a problem for sure. So definitely make sure you stretch for sure, man. Make sure you stretch.
One thing I like to mention here, as you know, we like to say at G3X a lot that aspect of like God, Gym, grind, those three
Hmm.
different pillars. And as we know how, and I know you're also a man of God, who a man of faith as well. And I know one part in the Bible where it says like, hey, paraphrasing it, I like, basically like take care of your body, how it's like the temple of the Holy Spirit. And I think with
Hmm.
everything we've been talking about today, how I think it could really connect that where it's like, hey, you know, take care of how you train, like that pain-free training, the stretching, not to go too
100%.
heavy, what's your goals in mind. I think all of that really can boil down to just taking care of your body the right way, training the right way,
Amen.
thinking long term, not short term. Where
Yes,
it's like
sir.
at the end of the day, hey, the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. It's a gift God's giving you. You only get one because you literally only get one body.
Yeah.
Take care of it as much as you can for sure.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, man. I think that's undervalued in the body of Christ these days, because a big part of being a Christian is denying the flesh and the desires of the flesh, and I think we got to acknowledge there is a spiritual element to the flesh. When we talk about denying
Hmm.
yourself, denying the flesh, it's really like we're trying to address matters concerning the heart. That's really what we're talking about. When we say crucify the flesh, I don't think God is saying never cut your nails again. You know what I'm saying? Like we'd all have
Right,
crazy looking
right,
nails if we've never
100%.
cut our nails again. So you see what I'm saying? We're trying to address the issues of the heart. So, yeah, man, like sometimes people don't understand that in totality. So, what they do is they say, who needs the gym? As long as I got God, you feel
Mm,
me? So, it's like, nah, like you don't
yeah,
need the gym. So, yeah, like, so some people will probably say, oh, you don't need the gym, X, Y, Z, and the third. It's like, listen, the verse is right there. Treat your body like a temple. How do you treat a temple? You're
hmm,
dusting any dust. Oh, let's dust that thing off right now. Oh, the floor is dirty. Let's
yeah,
mop that thing. Let's mop the floors. You see what I'm saying? So you're addressing things. You're taking care of yourself. And then at the same time, I really believe, man, like treating your body as a temple, but at the same time, letting God do the work in your heart. I think that represents like because we're made in the image of God. So when you look at treating your body as a temple, but at the same time letting God do the work in your heart, I strongly believe that gets us looking a lot more like Jesus. Because
yes,
Jesus walked everywhere, bro. So I'm like, he must have had really great calves. You see what I'm saying? Like his calves, like there's guys, man. There's some of us up, bro. Like we train our whole lives trying to get a nice pair of calves, bro. Why? I
right.
don't know. I don't know who put that thought, that image in our head. But a lot of guys, man, we train our whole lives trying to get our calves looking right. So yeah, I just believe, man, like if I had to picture what that would look like, right? A sound mind, sound heart. I take care of myself. My heart works well. I'm not necessarily the most shredded person, but you could see that I'm active. You could see that, okay, your car gets stuck in the ditch. I could probably help you get it up. I could probably help you get it out of there and stuff like that. I think there is a beauty and having all of those things in alignment. And I think that in the body of Christ, that sometimes we downplay the physical a little bit because we're over spiritualizing things, man. So yeah, man. Yeah.
And you said it well said. Like I agree with everything that you said because I agree. Some people take it like, oh no, I'm with God, but it's like, hey, God is still expects you to act. in specific ways as well. It's just
Yeah.
like God takes care of my health, and then all you're eating is, let's say, like junk food or anything. Let's
100%,
not get
bro.
into the, you know what I mean? It's just like, hey, well,
Yeah.
don't get mad when you go to the doctor and he's like, hey, you have high
Mhm.
cholesterol. Well, what do you expect?
100%.
All you're
Exactly.
eating is junk food. It's like that has nothing to do with
Exactly,
God or the
man.
Holy Spirit. That's your own
100%, bro.
lack of decisions, bad decisions, etc. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with you there. So it's true, so true. Like
Yeah,
he's like, oh no,
cause
God protects me from injuries. It was like, well, who told you to
right.
like do super heavy weight with bad
One
form?
bro,
So it's
exactly.
like,
Yeah,
you know,
yep.
you can't, like the famous quote, you can't go around fire expecting not to burn. So it's like, hey, you're not
Yeah,
doing the right things. It's like, well, what do you expect to
yeah.
happen?
Yeah, the Bible says, "Treat your body as a temple," but it also says, "My people perish from lack of knowledge."
Yes.
So it's like, educate yourself, man. Educate yourself. So that way you don't perish, bro. Like, come on.
Speaking facts, man. I love it, Billy. Now, I mean, I've been loving this conversation. It's been super, super good. Billy, though, ultimately, as one, let's say, final takeaway for the audience. We talked a lot about that pain-free training, training smart, training the right way, taking care of your body, how that also connects with like your faith and as a Christian taking care of your body. But if there was one final, let's say, piece of advice or words of wisdom that you wanted to leave the audience with, what would that be? Or maybe something that I
Mm,
didn't ask that you wish I had
yeah.
asked that you definitely wanted to leave the audience with.
Man, I'll say this, like, if you didn't ask that I wish you'd ask, it's not gonna come to me now. It's probably gonna come to me tomorrow, 2 days from
Next
now, 2 months
episode.
from now, next episode. So that's when it's gonna come to me. Honestly, I think we covered a lot, which is amazing. If I had to, man, give final piece of advice to, the audience, man, I'm trying to think. What do I say a lot? Honestly, one of the things I say a lot, and I would let that be the last piece of advice to the audience: consistency over intensity. Every day of the week, man. Consistency over intensity. People have an all or nothing mindset, all or nothing mentality, and they have to understand the power of stacking small wins. You got to stack those small wins. You got to let those habits calcify and solidify themselves in your routine. Because once the habit is established, then you become a force to be reckoned with. But the hard part is, a lot of times, man, when it comes to stacking up those small wins, people got that serpent in their mind telling them you didn't do enough. Like,
That's so
I'm
true.
like, come on, bro. That's no different than when Adam and Eve ate the fruit and God said, Adam, where are you? And then Adam said, oh, I was naked, so I hid myself. And then God said, who told you? He said, who told you you were naked?
Hmm.
So a lot of times, man, people do a little, but something's in that serpent is telling them, that's not enough. But they don't realize how much glory they can attain when they just stay the course, man. Stay the course. Consistency over intensity. It's not to say that, if you do a little bit forever, you're going to become this superhero. Consistency over intensity is the foundation that you need to be great. It's not going to get you great, but it's the foundation that you need. Without that foundation, the house that you build on whatever you got won't stand. So consistency over intensity.
Well said. I mean, the best example I could get, like when you buy a Lego set, it's like little
Mhm.
pieces, but those little pieces make up something, a work of art.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so well said there is like
It's
that
funny you
consistency
mentioned that,
leads.
bro. I've been wanting to get into Legos, bro. Like, I've been wanting to
Uh,
do that, but it's just a lot of time consuming. It's very time consuming. So I'm gonna get into it
And they're
eventually,
not
but
cheap. Some of these
they're
Lego
not.
sets aren't cheap.
Oh yeah. Once
You're like, whoa.
I went online and I saw the price. The Legos in my budget were like the little tiny ones. I'm like, come on. I just wait. I'm gonna just wait.
I
It's all good.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Really amazing. I mean, I loved having you. We definitely got to
Hmm.
do a part two for sure because there's so much more I know we could definitely talk about. Time
Yeah.
went by way too quickly on this
Tell me about
episode.
it, bro. Tell me.
But for the
Yeah.
audience who wanted to follow you, you know, that they want to support you, they want to gonna get, you know, I know you're also putting, I mean, I see your content. I know every so often you're putting like
Yeah.
super really good educational content, even also faith-based content, etc. The audience wanted to find you. What platforms are you on? What are your social media handles?
Yeah. Hey man, right now if you want to, stay up to date, I am on LinkedIn, believe it or not. I am on LinkedIn, Billy Casimir, simply put on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Billy Casimir Fitness, TikTok, Billy Casimir Fitness. I don't post that much on TikTok, but if you see this and you follow me on there and you want to keep me accountable so I can post more on TikTok. I am on X, Billy Casimir Fit, or I think it's Billy Casimir Fitness. I'm not sure, but same thing. If you want to keep me accountable so I can post more on X, if that's your platform of choice, keep me accountable there. But right now, I'm mostly active on my Instagram and my LinkedIn. And then hopefully in the near future, I'm active on all platforms, posting 2, 3 times a day. That's the goal, at least.
Oh, I love it. I actually just
Hmm.
sent you a request right now on LinkedIn because I'm somewhat active on
Yeah.
LinkedIn myself too. So that's pretty cool. Not a lot of people mention LinkedIn. So the
Hey,
fact that you mentioned
man.
LinkedIn, I'm like, okay, let's go.
LinkedIn is amazing, bro. Don't
It
sleep on
really is. It
LinkedIn.
really is. Nah, facts, facts, facts. But no, awesome. Again, love having you, Billy. For the audience listening or watching, all the description, all the links will be in the
Yeah.
description below. So feel free to pause this video or pause it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you may be listening to it. Give Billy a follow. All the links, I'll make sure to put them in the
Make sure
description so
you're
you can give them.
subscribed to the God Jim Grind podcast. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, no, if you like this episode as well, 100% thank you, Billy. You know, drop us a comment, give us a like, subscribe as well. Every Friday, we're uploading new episodes. So I appreciate the support. And every support, like, comment, subscribe, helps the channel grow and for more people to also know about this brand. So, as we like to say here, as always, God, Gym, Grind. Remember, you're rooted in God, you're rebuilt in the gym, and you're relentless in the grind. Until the next episode, peace out, everyone.
Awesome, man.